Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel Learn with Aviboy 2006. Hello everyone. So today we'll learn about what is the infrastructure as a code. We can say as a short name, like you might be have heard about like IAC. Like a lot of people may have like talk about what is IAC. Okay, so we'll discuss about like what is the infrastructure as a code, and along with that, what the cloud formation perform the role from the AWS side to help the infrastructure as a code become more powerful. So let's start. So what we'll cover today, let's have a glance on that. What exactly the problem solved by the IAC? Okay, and what is the IAC? Who are the provider of IAC? Then what is the cloud formations? What are the components of the cloud formation and benefit of cloud formations? How it work? Some of the Perquisites to be noted down before the cloud formation working on it. And we'll have a short demo about like, I think last session we learn about like how to create a S3 bucket and host a chatting website, right? So keeping a similar topic on that, but without doing any manual thing, we'll do that S3 web hosting using the cloud formation. Okay, so that's about today's topic. So let's start this. Okay, so I think his pictures see, right? It is like tense guy. He's in thinking what to be done there. Okay, so even the title says what problem does ISC solve? So if you see, right, so if you go to the traditional way of the cloud, traditional way of the on-prem server or with the cloud, well, so what is exactly pain of the IT infrastructure was there? One was the cost of infra, second was the scalability and availability, and third was the monitoring performance visibility. Okay, so as I say, what problem does ISC solve, right? So with the what out of the way, right? Let's turn out to the focus why of the infrastructure as a code. Okay, why it needed generally. Okay, so infrastructure as a code like ISC mean to manage your IT infrastructure using the configuration file. Okay, so it is like infrastructure code is evolved to solve the problem of the environment drift in your release pipeline. Or without IC, like without IC, a team can maintain the settings of individual deployment environment also. So let me show you. Okay, so let's run one YouTube video. So I think the video was telling like there are long dark ago, suppose any natural calamities happen. Okay, like so when we have the on-prem server or device servers, right? There was no backup for it. Okay, so even not anywhere we have written anywhere what the server configuration was there. Okay, so that time, so what the I in a video it can say that Joe was one person, he was managing the infrastructure, and suddenly one natural calamity happened and all the server got crashed. So he was in an apprehension like what to do now. Okay, who will help me to do that generally? And then question marks comes on say whether the replica of server keeping a replica of server will help them. Then I say no. Why? Because the keeping a replica server also, suppose like all the world itself got crash. Okay, the thing, then the replica also will not work. Then what can help on that part really? So that was the ISC comes in a picture. So ISC is like a keeping your infrastructure in a code file. Okay, so what other configurations are there? Okay, what we can uh, keep us parameters to scale up the server, what is the EC2 instance type will be there, who are having access, all small parameters and configuration parameter can be there. Okay, that is what infrastructure as a code mean to manage your cloud or infrastructure using the configuration file. Okay, so it's a one proverb say infrastructure is a difficult. It is not easy now, and it has never been easy also. Thinking that ISC is easy can lead to a misconception that ISC does not require, maintain, or care and feeding. It like we have to maintain and care the feedings. Okay, and here the ISC come to the our rescue. So who are the provider of IAC? Okay, so like these are the like market leader of provider. One is the AWS CloudFormation, one is the Google Deployment Manager, another is the Azure Resource Manager, and fourth one is the Terraform. Fourth one is the one of the important part, Terraform. So or like AWS, Google, Azure, they have their own format and own standard to use as a ISC when they are deploying to their individual servers. Okay, so they cannot have a cross cloud uh, deployment code file supporting them. So there only the Terraform support. The Terraform is a kind of the aggregation of the all three cloud where it can support. So the code can be written in Terraform file using the format, and that can be used on any of the cloud form, any of the cloud like AWS, Google, or Azure, any of the like. Okay. So currently our EV also use the Terraform cloud for like template only CNF, so which can be like suppose later point if EV want to switch back to the AWS to Google or maybe Azure, right? That will not have any issue on that part. And that is what it supports the Terraform. So it's like a global configuration, keeping the all supporting the all type of the cloud infrastructure. Okay. So there are like infrastructure as a code is a very powerful tool also, but there are the risks also involved in this, like including the propagating the small configuration mistakes or across like suppose if we are writing the code for the configuration and even small mistake like keeping the instance type from T1 micro to T2 micro or maybe the M1 micro, it can cause the problem. It can cause you to billing or maybe some other uh, calamities can happen also. So misconfiguration may take several different forms. There's the insecure default configuration, including like half of the CloudFormation template, or maybe publicly accessible S3 bucket, unencrypted database. And this issue can lead to the breaches of the privacy or securities also. So like ISC still has a vulnerable, but there is a provision to keep ISC the proper way by using the IAM, the users who has access, and there should be a reviewer to do it whenever doing it, the changes. Okay. So to keep a secure ISC, right, what exactly can be done generally is like we can prevent hard coding the some secret value from keeping the ISC, and it can like even restrict some of the environment specific access also. So instead of having like hard coding the environment variable in code, they can have runtime variables which can whenever running the particular cloud formations or any IAC code, right? It will ask you to which environment we have to do. Actually, this is a kind of one of the example. We'll have a walkthrough on that details part. That this is an example. So when we say this, right, it's a code only. The code is like supported by any of the format. So generally, this will format will be either YML file or maybe JSON file. So here you can see the which service we have to create it, what are the property will be there, what is the policy will be there. Okay, whatever we are did, I think if you try to remember last session, right, we have set up the bucket policy, we have set up the that principles ARNs also, then we have set up this SA bucket website URL when we setting up the static web hosting, we enable that public hosting that part. So all small things he can we can like see this here. Okay, so we'll talk about cloud formations. So like cloud formation is the magic, okay? Because why is magic? Because it gives you more power and more backup also to keep your infrastructure it's handy with whenever is required. And if you want to replicate also similar things again, okay, and which enable developer even business entity to easy way to create a stack of the related AWS and the external resources and manage in a proper way, because then you don't need to be done do anything documentations also for that, because when we have a set up this in inside the CloudFormation, it will define one template. So whatever which we are seeing, right, that YML file, it will have a hierarchy of those services defined there. Okay, what services, then what is the role for supporting services, what are the policy we have to define it, all this will be listed in template. And then once the template is created, it will be got uploaded to the formation, CloudFormation. And when we go to the CloudFormation, it will create stacks. The stack will be like, okay, first verify that for template. Once we verify a template, approve the template, then go for the change set. And once we change set, then execute the change set. Okay, and then it will be go for different final deployment. So it will have some life cycles also. I'll show in a demo that part how the life cycle goes, and anything wrong between happens also, right? What will the given the errors there? Okay. So what will the component of the CloudFormation? So I think just to understand before the CloudFormation uh, template, right? Let's understand like CloudFormation supported two types of the format. One is a YML and one is JSON format. I think JSON is like most for famous format, but YML is another format now newly introduced also, like for the cloud-based thing. It is like a yet another markup language. Okay, so I think the format which I shown, that was a YML that can be converted to JSON also. Mm, and next will be the chain set. So there are two chain set will be there. One is the creating chain set and one is the executing chain set. So it like when you are deploying the CloudFormation, right? It first create all the infrastructure on virtually, and then it start executing it. So it will like it will keep ready. And executing means like when you are clicking on the create button. So it's like when you're creating a EC2 right? So you select the particular Ubuntu machines, and then you select, okay, these are the EBS volume will be there, these are the my security group will be there, and then click on the this. And executing change it means like clicking on the, okay, finish or maybe the create the final instance. That is like it is going to be start implementing the changes. Okay, so these are two factors. One is the creating a change set and one is the executing change set. So whenever the CloudFormation talk about it or anything, so like it always talk about two words only, whether it's the creating change set or the create executing change set. The third part is the stack. Stack will be the collection of the resources. So if you look at the template, right, it will have a stack. It's a hierarchy, right? So you can see that it will list as AWS template format version, then resources. After resources, okay, what the resources are going to use it. So I'll say Lambda name, then type. The type will be like, suppose if you have a AWS S3, then it will be a AWS S3. So now here example is AWS Lambda function. It will say, then what will the property, description, function name, what handler will be there, what are the runtime will be there. This is a small parameter will come under the particular services. Okay, so this we all call it a stack. So when you're executing the chain set, right, it go hierarchy by. Like first it create. So let me share that XML file again. So see here, if you say this is a closed one, okay, so it will first go for a creation of this, then it will go for the creation of bucket policy. So this is the one stack, this is the one stack, and this is the one stack. So when each stack close, it will come out of that parent stack. It go for a next stack. Like that, it will come. Like so, these are the stacks only. You can see. So these are the stacks we call it. So that based on the hierarchy, it will be called as a stack. Okay, so what will be the benefit of CloudFormation, right? So one is the like automate the best practices, as I mentioned in the few minutes back, right? Whenever in the production we are doing some manual changes, right? It's always keep to record in the code part. So it will be always help us to automate the best practices. What is the best practices? Do not change anything in our production manually. Okay, do it through code only, because it will give a history of your infrastructure, what was there before the incident and what you changed after the incident. So anyone want to look into that, okay, what was the configuration was there, you can easily see that configuration through the your IAC code. So that is the best practices, follow it. And that the CloudFormation help us to follow the best practices. Even our EV also follows a similar way. We don't generally go for manual change. Only in case of some production incidents, we go for manual changes, but we keep that manual changes in the code again, and we push back to the verify the same changes to keep a record of the changes. Okay. And also it simplified the infrastructure management, right? Why simplified? Because it give you more power. Like it give you more power to your developers also. Like if you have the access, right, they can also deploy the infrastructure using the CloudFormation. Like don't know, and if they don't want to like go to the AWS console to do that part, so it's like if you understand the proper the stack part, it will simplify the that infrastructure also. And like another part is like one file can help us to integrate with the multiple AWS services. Suppose example, one services is linked with the multiple services. Example like AWS Route 53, AWS S3, and AWS CloudFront. These are the interlinked. Like AWS Route 50 will link to the AWS CloudFront. AWS CloudFront will go to the S3 origin. So these are interlinked. So these three can be done using the our ISE, because that can be integrated to the one single file also. Okay. Also, it manage a third party and some private resources also. It can be able to create some VPC components also, and a security group through the this template file. And like extend the CloudFormation with the community, because it has widely used now, because the ISA is very famous and more reliable source also. Easy to control and track the changes, as I mentioned, while doing the best practices, right? It's always give a like a kind of documentation only, because you can go to your code GitHub history and see that what were the changes was there before. So you can easily track the changes of the infrastructure. Whereas when you go to the AWS, you cannot see that what was there before. Okay, like suppose if you change that any instance type from the one small to medium, it cannot be see that what was there before. It always good to track in your infrastructure under the CloudFormation. And the reusability of infrastructure. How, like if you have one code file, and if you have having the multiple account, right? So you don't need to do a multiple activity in a two different account, right? You can use the same code and different account. So the same code can be used in multiple account. That is the usability of infrastructure. So like we have a dev stage and productions, right? If you want to replicate the similar configuration on all this environment, the same code can be go there by passing some of the configured parameter. Like suppose if you want to keep production under the VPC, where test and stage under the VPC, and production don't want to under the VPC. So that will be an environment specific configuration under the CloudFormations. This is the way the reusability of infrastructure can be done, sir. So I think how it work, right? So it create and use existing template. There is a UI also CloudFormation provide to how you can design the templates also. Once we create a template, you either you save it locally or you upload to S3 bucket, and then you can provide the the path of the S3 bucket, or maybe the while you upload, you can upload it to the particular local file uploads only. And once you upload it, it will start by validating the template, whether the template has all the things are properly written or not, any format are not properly managed, it will throw the error that time only. So that is how the it's work. So next is like, what are the Perquisites for the CloudFormation, right? So like to use the cloud formation, we need to have an initial knowledge about AWS resources and their property resources. Why it required? Because if you not understanding what are the component of particular AWS services, right, it will be difficult to understand the cloud formation. So like example, like you learn the S3 bucket and the S3 bucket hosting, right? So until unless you are not understanding what S3 bucket, S3 buckets properties are, what are the properties of S3 buckets are there, how to define the policies are there, this parameter has to understand, and then only that property reference you can replicate in the code formation. So this is a very like initial things has to be there about the resources. So any resources you're going to try with that, first understand their property, what are the parameters are required there, and then replicate the similar in the code. Next is the intrinsic functions. What intrinsic function? Intrinsic function is like an essential function. So CloudFormation has created their own custom functions, right? Which you can help us to enable some of the values. Like example, see, if you want to convert particular value to base 64, okay, so pass that value and it will convert to the base 64 string. Okay, if you want to get a C header or maybe the get attribute, like example, I don't want to hard code the VPC security group ID. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll create the parameters and I'll pass a parameter to get attribute. So get attribute will give back me as a value of the ID runtime basis. So no need to pass that parameter. Where the use cases of this, right? So get attribute use case will be like example like we have a VPC security group, but VPC security group name will be same for the dev, test, stage, and production. But the ID, the unique ID will be different because we have a separate account for each environment. The unique ID will be different. So don't want to be hard-coded unique ID for all four environment in a code. That time we can use a get attribute. We pass the name of the particular group and get the relevant value to the get attribute for each environment specific. So wherever you're running that account, automatically it will taken care of the value getting it. Similar way, other things are there, like get attributes. Let me just open this link. So there is one link given here. So these are the, I'm on talking about it. So you can click on the each of the functions and get details about, like, so I was talking about get attribute. So click on, you can see here, they wanted to have a logical name and which attribute automatically they will return back the values of the particular thing. So example like get attribute my elb.dns name, or maybe in JSON format function get attribute my elb and value are required a DNS name. So it will return back the DNS value. Suppose DNS value has a connect -lb dot cms dot test.evinternet.net, it will return back the DNS name there. So no need to particular hard code that part. Similarly, this joins functions help us to join to string. So if you want to do some runtime basis string concatenation, that can also help to the join by using the delimiter also. And don't want to pass the delimiter, it can be empty also. Splits, subtraction, a transform also there. There is another called import value. So import value is like what value we have to import it. So that can be by using suppose example like I want to import let me check the here example. Yeah, subnet ID. Okay, I want to import some values of subnet value based on the parameter, right? I can import it. So that value can be available to another template. So in another template, it can be get as a export using the get attribute value. So it is like a inside also you can define some import value where which can be used it way. This is about the prerequisite for the CloudFormation. Let's try with the one demo. So, okay, so coming back to this S3, right? So we'll do one S3 bucket creations using this, and we'll host index as file and everything. Okay, only thing is like code we have to manually push, but the setup can be done through the CloudFormation. So let's understand it like this is the resource, then S3 bucket and type of the S3 bucket. This name can be customized one. You can define any name like for a IND purpose, use a better naming convention. Okay, what bucket you are going to use it. Then what will be type of the services, property, what is access control, as you see, no, right? Last time we seen we are publicly allowing the S3 bucket to when we are doing the static web host ticket. So it is allowed a public read only. Then website configurations will be index.html will be index.html, error document will be error.html. Okay, deletion probably will be returns. We are not going to teach in deletion formatting. Then the bucket policy. So bucket policy also another services under the S3 bucket. So one service is called S3 bucket. Another is like AWS S3 bucket policy. Okay. Then property will be policy document, and this policy name can be anything, the ID. So it can be a customized name also, like my S3 bucket, static hosting, web hosting policy, you can define like that. Okay. The statement will be SID. This can be also SID can be also customized as I mentioned on an earlier session. So this can be customized value. Effect will be what to be allowed or disallowed. Then what's the principle we have to do it and what action we are going to do it. So when we are using it through the static hosting, that it should give an option to only get object, because we are loading the website to the get objects, right? We are not going to upload anything to the website. It's only just like rendering the pages. So only allow the S3 get object only. And what resource to be given the access like S3 buckets. Yeah, generally reference. Okay, so next output will be website URL will be generated through the S3 bucket and the website, and the description can be a anything customized. This is optional part. And then the S3 buckets, whether we have to create S3 bucket secured things or not, based on that, it can be give a value to HTTPS part. So okay, so this is the AWS console where we can create a cloud formations. So when we come to the cloud formation, you can see the listed cloud formations existing available there. You can go to create stacks with the new resources or existing resources also. Now we are going to initially first do the first only. So we'll select the initial resources. If you want to do the existing resources, we can select the existing resources and select any of the existing stack also there. So we'll select the standard one here. So it will ask you whether the template is ready or use sample template or create a template in design. So we're telling about this designer part. So if you click the designer part, right, it will allow you to create a designer, a way. So it's give you option of a UI to design the a template, like select example. We're going to S3, suppose. S3 bucket. Okay, so drag down to here. Okay, then bucket policy. Okay, based on that it will start using it here. Then if you want anything is ht output, so access point, so it will start adding it. So here you can see that you can switch over to YML or JSON format based on that. And suppose if you are clicking the YML, it will see you this resources. This if you click on this, and you can merge it also this part. So let me see. So this is option mapping. So similar property also, it's a option here, property. Okay, see. So this is the way the template will look like. Okay, I also not use a like full-fledged one, but yes, the designer can be useful when we don't have a like more understanding about the code part, where we can utilize this way to use it. So there is a way to like drag and drop and design the this template what we have created in currently just YML format. We'll just go with our template ready. There is a sample format also. It will give you options of sample format. Here you can create, if you want to create a lamp stack using ACT instance, you can just select the simple sample format. Also WordPress, if you want to do host a WordPress blog, okay, what the required will be there, you can use from the here, and automatically it can be used from the this samples. We'll select our template. So now we are going to upload a template file through the locals only. So not going to S3. So we'll select the S3. We'll choose a file from here, QC bucket, S3 YML, then select it. So it is already uploaded now. Okay, now we want to see in the designer how it is look. We can see the designer as well. So this is the way it is showing it. So I was telling it right. So you can see these are interlinked. Link are created like S3 bucket. That is why this bucket policy and S3 bucket are linked together here. How it linked together, you can see the name used by S3 bucket here. It is used here as a reference resources. Okay, if you remove this link will get removed there. So whatever the name you are going to give it here, that we can use as a reference point. So if you want to link two resources, we can use using the reference point like colon reference and the name of the particular line. You can see here also bucket name mention the S3 bucket. This is a way. And another part, like I was talking about the get attribute, right? Here, see they are using the get attribute for S3 bucket and website URL. So here they're using that parameter. So the intrinsic function which we are talking about. We'll click on the next. We'll give one name of S3 bucket. We should not have any like dashes there. So S3 bucket hosting will give it. Now we don't have a runtime parameter, so it will not ask you to runtime parameter. But if you define the runtime parameter, it automatically asks like environment to select it, or maybe any VPC group you have to select it. All the runtime parameter can be asked here based on the template file. The tags are metadata informations. Then now permission, what we are to go into. So if you are using a CloudFormation, you have to ensure that whatever the role we are going to use it, that role should have access to create that particular resources. If this role, it doesn't have access to create a S3 bucket, it will give access denied issue. So we have to make sure that whichever the role we are going to use it here, it should have a right access or with the create access to particular that resources which is mentioned in the CloudFormation. What will be the failure option? If so, suppose the creation failed, what should be there? Roll back to the all resources or what? So that is the way generally. So we follow like even we also follow the rollback to the all stack resources. So whenever there is a rollback, a failure happen in a stack, it automatically restores to the original versions only. It is not going to implement the new version any of them. So it will not. It will be save you from the half bake of the code. The stack policy, we are not going to any add extra policy for this, like who has the access rights, but there is a no stack policy. The rollback configurations, like when to rollback, what is the monitoring time will be there. If you want to have a CloudWalk alarm, like security alert, right? Generally, so whenever there is a deployment finish, get the alarm and mail a notification to your email. It can define CM. Here, the notification option, we can select an SNS, or the SNS will have another subscription model called either email or SMS, email or SMS, that we will see in a next coming up section, how to do this SNS part notification part. And stack creations option, the timeout or disable. So we are not going to do any timeout part. We'll keep it similar way. Bank, and then next. It will also allow you to estimate the cost also whenever you're going to, whatever the configuration you define the YAML, it will give you estimation based on your the configurations. So now we'll go for the create tags. There is two stage called create change stage and create tags also. So we can choose at the create tags will automatically trigger the create change set and then the execute a change set. We'll go for a create stage. So we can see the life cycle here, creating a process. So S3 working is initiated, then S3 bucket is getting in progress, S3 bucket logical IDs here. We can see our template here, whatever we upload, you can see the template here. So if any parameter which we are passing it, it will listed here, and the output of the particular resources will come here. And what other resources are getting created, you can just list it out here. You can directly point to particular resources by clicking on this link, and that bucket can be seen here. So this is a bucket which we have created just now to the CloudFormation. So this is the event. So I think it's completed now. Yes, the bucket is completed. Resources are created. We can see the buckets are there. In a property, it is set as the static web person. You can see the URL here. Currently, there's no things are there, but if you upload the particular file in a S3 bucket, it will be shown that. And permissions also, it can see that allow the public access at the C the template. So suppose if you upload here one file, um, upload. So it will show that file here. You can see that the website is working here. Feel free to ask the question on the channel if you have any questions, and give a try on at least simple S3 bucket hosting part using the CloudFormation.